Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Action Goose here, and today we're doing a video on Apex Legends, the best controller settings that you can have for the game right now in Season 10. So guys, let's get right into it. The first tab I'm going to go through is gameplay, and I'm going to go from left to right. So if you want to skip on, you can to certain ones. So basically with this, you don't really want to change too much. Like the minimap rotation, I turn off. I like to keep it always the same way so I know which way I'm facing. I don't get confused with my turnaround character. Your weapon auto cycle on empty, that should probably be on in case you do run out of ammo. One I did change is auto sprint on. I got used to this with Warzone, so basically you just hit the toggle, you hit down on your left trigger one time, and you just you run automatically. You don't have to keep pressing it and double tapping it and break your thumb basically. Double tap sprint, that doesn't matter because I don't need it. Jetpack control, that comes in lines with certain characters in this game that have the power to jump up in the air with jetpack. I've got the toggle as well in case I do want to do that. I just have to tap once and then I have to tap again to turn it off. Pretty straightforward. Another thing I didn't mention there is damage numbers. If you want to see the numbers that are being inflicted to your character, you can go and put this on and it'll show the stacking numbers and it'll come onto your screen each time you hit them. It'll be like multiplying, and you can see each how much damage you're hitting each character for. At the bottom of the gameplay settings, you actually have accessibility settings tab area where you can do if you're colorblind or you want to change the color in general or add subtitles to your gameplay, you can do that. But personally myself, I do not need any changes there. So that's really it for gameplay. It's your own preference. You want to change any of these things, but most of them are default other than the likes of auto sprint, damage numbers, and so on. So controller settings, you want to go into button layout if you want to change up your buttons in general. So you can go in here and you can actually customize your own one, which I did already. And the only difference I have is my toggle is to crouch on my R3, as you can see right here in the middle of the screen, and my melee is B. So that's how I work. My gameplay is how I've done it for years, so that's the way I like to play when I'm on controller. Stick layout is default. You can change this, it depends on what way you play, but usually it's just default, and I say most of you will be default, so don't worry too much about that. Another big thing is tap to use and reload, so you don't have to actually hold down anything. You can just tap and it will reload your gun or to use an item. This is very quick and it'll help you in the gameplay in the future. Once again, my toggle comes in, so I have toggle for crouch. I also have hold down for aim, not toggle, so it's not click and it'll be in aim and click and it'll be out of aim. You don't want that. I think that's really distracting. You want to be able to hold down your aim button and then shoot. So you have this actual option for trigger dead zones. I leave it on default, but if you want more sensitivity on your triggers when you press them so they react faster when you press them, then you can mess with this. You can turn it up or turn it down. It depends on what way you want it. But because I have an Elite 2 series Xbox controller that is personalized triggers, I don't need to actually handle this stuff on my screen. Now, movement, aiming, and sensitivity is huge in this game, because if you're used to other FPS games, you're probably running around and you have high FPS or so on. But with this, you kind of need your ADS to be very accurate, because the guns can be very different. Like you have energy guns, you have sniper guns, you have heavy guns, you have all these different types of guns that shoot way different and recoil is all over the place. So I like to go with a high 5 on my look sensitivity, so I'm moving quicker to look around because I don't want to be too slow. But I bring it down by 1 just so I can ADS a bit better. So that's how I kind of do this. You can actually go into pre-optic settings if you really want to home in exactly the way you want this. I'm not going to do this because I don't really care. This will actually be different for each time. So you have your 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, all the way up to 10 times. It depends on what way you want it to slow down or speed up, depending on if you have a sniper or if you have a little red dot. So that's your own preference, but I keep that default. I have it off and I work pretty okay with this settings right here. Now, response curve, that can be up to you again. Something that a lot of people change, but I always keep the classic if I can, unless I find something a little different that makes me get the advantage in other ones. But for now, I'm going to leave it on classic because this is the most comfortable one I feel with, and especially for beginners, you kind of want to be more comfortable in this game because you need to get used to it. So this is a very good option. I'd recommend just stay on classic, and along with that, leave your look dead zone on small. You don't want your dead zone to be large. It literally allows your aim to move more when your stick is idle. As it says there, you can see it says can prevent you for your view from drifting when you're not touching the stick. You want this as small as possible. You can say none or you can say small. Sometimes it's nice to have a little small. I just leave on small because it's default what to give us. But if you don't want any drift at all on your analog when you leave your finger off the thing, then just put it on none. That's your best option. Inverted look is off. I don't want that. And vibrations off. That is a personal preference. I don't want to be my controller to go crazy when I get shot by anybody. It can kind of put me off and I don't really like it. So if you like that kind of me be more immersive in the game, then leave it on. It'll be a bit more fun for you. So in the custom lookup controls, you can actually tune in each one of these settings even more with percentages. I literally turn this off. I do not go into this, but if you find a video on someone doing it, maybe see if there's any benefit to you. But to be honest, I think it's just fine the way it is, unless there's some crazy OP settings video that makes you way better than everyone else. I wouldn't recommend changing too much of them unless you know exactly what you're doing. This is for people that have monitors. I don't think it's going to actually relate to anyone that has a TV, so if you don't want this part to skip onto audio, but for anyone that has a monitor, I'd like to say I only run on borderless window because I do stream and I do actually record sometimes, so I need to flick between monitors because I have two. But other than that, I would recommend full screen for the best FPS you can get and the best smooth gameplay you can actually give yourself in this. But for me, I stick with borderless windows because I need to. 16:9 is my aspect ratio. That's always been that way. My resolution on my monitor is 1080p, so it's 1920 by 1080p native. That's fine. Brightness I have on 50. Brightness is fine in this game. The game's very colorful. You're able to see most stuff. Don't worry about it. It's not like Warzone. Field of view, if you have the option, put it up to 110, guys. You're going to see so much more. You're going to see way more enemies on your screen. Don't leave it at default. I think it comes in as default. I don't know what it is, like 60 or whatever. If you're a beginner and you have this option, put it up to 110 straight away. You're going to see a lot more of field of view and you're going to see a lot more enemies coming from left and right. You want to turn this on. This is field of view ability scaling. So when you have an ability that increases the likes of your speed or so on. So Octane, if you put in the ejection, you run really quick. You need your field of view to keep up. So this needs to be enabled. And your sprint view shake. I do not like my screen shaking when I'm sprinting. So I put this on minimal. This is what I like because it'll put me off when I'm trying to see people while sprinting. It can actually be very distracting. So for VSync, I have it disabled because I have a VSync enabled monitor, so it doesn't allow tearing to happen with my FPS, so it's actually fine. I have an NVIDIA graphics card, so I have that enabled. You can go enable boost, but I find sometimes I lose out in frames, so I leave it enabled. Adaptive resolution FPS target. So this is something that you don't want your game to go by, as in it's the lowest FPS you're allowing your game to get to. So if you take an example, you're running at 110 frames wide field of view, and you're running at that 120 frames per second. You don't want that to go lower than 90, but make sure you're not putting unrealistic things saying, I don't want it to go lower than 140, and you've never hit that number, or you're just pushing that number now and again. And if you really want to check out what numbers you're hitting, you can go into your GeForce graphics drivers and you can set them up from there. Or you can download the likes of Firestorm, which is a GPU handler, and it'll tell you the GPU FPS you have on screen and on any game you play. Anti-aliasing I leave on TSAA, which is the only option you get here. So you have that or none. I've tried none and I've tried TSAA. None is horrible. It is really bad. The jagged lines and stuff on the side of corners of buildings and stuff is very distracting. I would recommend leaving this on, even if you think your system is better not having it on. I definitely would. My texture streaming budget, put that kind of in the middle, a little bit above middle, 4 gigs. I can go higher if I want, but it seems pretty good for me. Tropic 16X filter. Now I have this built into my GPU's back-end settings. I could just turn this off if I really wanted to, or leave it down in a very low, but 16 is probably the best option for me and my system. So if you're wondering what I have a 2080 GTX Super. So if you have something similar to that, this works pretty fine for me. So ambient inclusion quality is high. Once again, could disable that if I want because I have ambient inclusion in the back, but I leave it high just to keep that kind of level looking nice in game. So guys, moving on to shadows and stuff. Shadows, if you don't know this already for videos and if you're losing out on frames, they kill a lot of your GPU. So if you can turn these down, if you're not noticing a huge difference, if you turn them on in game, turn them on in game, have a look yourself. But to be honest, I usually leave them on low because they are no benefit to me. So leaving them on the high is just leaving you with a lot of GPU stress that you could actually be using for frames to take on people so you can see them quicker. So in my personal preference, I would always go with low. Once again, these are two options that you can disable if you're really struggling with GPU. It actually says it in the description every time I'm going through them. Turning this off will reduce CPU and GPU. So the likes of this, I do not care about unless I see serious dramatic change. I will leave off. I put all these to medium, effects medium, impact marks low, and I wrote ragdolls medium. Now, they're my settings for that, guys, but you'll definitely find different settings if you want the best quality ones or you want the lowest quality ones. But for me, because I mix in with YouTube streaming and so on, I want my quality of my frames to be better than most of my video because I'm still able to see people and shoot them. So moving on to audio. So guys, master audio is always to a 100. I can't stress enough how you need this, because you need your audio in your headset so you can hear everything happening around you. If you're new to the game and you're wondering why people can't hear you, your mic is probably on push to talk, which means you need to actually press down T if you're on keyboard, or you need to like press down your mic if you have your mic on your headset to talk. Turn this to open mic, and as you can see, my threshold is at 1300. Not sure what's better here, but this has always been default for me, so I just left it there, so don't worry about that too much. This is your incoming voice chat, so anyone that you're talking to, how loud they are on your screen, have it to 100, because a lot of people's mics are shit and you cannot hear them. So best option, leave that 100. Sound effects, always 100. Dialogue, you can turn this down if you want, but it's very good in this game because a lot of things are called out, a lot of abilities, a lot of ults, and so on. So definitely leave this on 100, I think. Music, turn this down if it's too loud. It is very loud, so I turn down to 59. And then lobby music, I want to hear my friends if I'm talking in the lobby, so I bring this down to 45. Sound in the background, incoming text chat, speech, and converting voice to chat and all that stuff is off. I don't need it. It doesn't matter to me. So guys, they're all my settings. Hopefully they were helpful for you. I do other settings videos for like the Warzone and so on, so check out my channel if you need something like that. I'll be streaming on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, maybe Apex or Warzone. It depends on what I have scheduled for that day. But guys, thanks very much for watching the video. Please hit a like, hit subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next one.